Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. Thanks for tuning in. Let me get my business out of the way right away. Let's see, I have added more dates. I'm doing a lot of podcasts on top of each other, so if these dates are in the past, I need you to get a time machine and set it backwards. But you could see me in Ann Arbor, Michigan in October. Also, I am doing Idaho Falls November 7th and Ogden, Utah, one of my favorite clubs, the 8th and the 9th. Also, I think I have some other stuff coming up, so stay tuned. And today, leave me 5 stars or some kind of stars. 1 star if you hate me, that's okay. The numbers, and whenever you do that, it helps me out because I get the numbers up. And then the podcast gets found more. And really, isn't that what we all want? So today, I'm joined again with April. It's Conversations with April. April Eckfeld, how are you?
Hi, Karen. How are you? I'm good. Sitting here in the air conditioning.
Yes, psychic.
So nice.
Psychic and friend and comedian. And real quick, tell everyone where they can find you. aprilreadings@gmail.com.
Yes. Email aprilreadings with an S at gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram, same, April Readings. You can find testimonials there. And I'm building a website. That should be out soon.
Well, it might be out by the time this is out because I'm stockpiling episodes.
That's right. You're packing heat.
I am. I'm packing heat and getting ready for next year. And folks, you can always email me at, I'm so slow at paranormalkaren@gmail.com. But if you go to my website, karenrontowski.com or paranormalkaren.com, email anything you would like to talk about. I have had some great new topics. I believe this one is coming out after the fairies. I was talking to Seth Breedlove from Small Town Monsters.
Fairies sounds so good.
I'm desperately trying to find someone to talk about the Skinwalker Ranch. Desperately. Did you know the Skinwalker Ranch?
You mentioned it before.
Yeah, it seems to be some sort of a portal where everything is there. There's Bigfoots, there's UFOs, there's all kinds of things. And the story is, it's actually such a weird, people can get very sick there. And the weird story about it was Ozzy Osbourne's son, what's his son's name?
I don't know.
Ozzy Osbourne has a son that ended up having a show called, I believe it was Haunted Highways, but somebody told him to never go to the Skinwalker Ranch. And he went, and it was like the next week or something, he found out he had MS, or I don't know if it was MS, Jack Osbourne. He, I think it was MS.
Where is it?
It's in Utah. And it used to be privately owned, and you used to be able to get on it, and then the government bought it, and nope, nobody's on. So I got to find out somebody to talk about that.
Yeah.
And remote viewing. I got to find a good remote viewer. I've been emailing a couple of them, and they don't care to talk to me. Maybe they've already viewed me with no makeup on. And they're like, no, we won't.
No, that can't be it. That can't be it.
So April, what have you been doing? You've been doing a lot of readings.
Doing a ton of readings. Being on social media, like keeping up some sort of form of existence in the digital world, takes up a lot of time. And when I'm reading, I'm not doing that. So
right.
I really try. I'm trying to build something. I've been working on my website too. So I'm sort of coming out of my closet because I've been doing this for so long, for privately and through word of mouth only. And I feel, more than ready for more people to know about it. But then, like, when good things happen, you have abundance problems.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I also devote a lot of attention, energy, time, preparation to my readings, which is good because it becomes a joyful experience for everyone involved. And I'm able to say no when I feel like too drained. I don't cross that boundary.
So you're really good about that.
Yeah. It's like I have to keep my battery charged. So yeah, I'm really happy things have been growing, and you've really helped me. Like just giving me this forum to talk about it has been so much fun.
You're always great. You're always a great guest. You and you were so people don't know, you actually trained at a couple of places, which had to be fascinating to get all different kinds of input on how to how it's very interesting. I've been talking to some healers, and it feels like it's kind of the same thing but in a different bottle. Like they're learning the same thing but in a different bottle with a different name.
Yeah, I don't think you can take a class and learn to be psychic, but I think that you can
work at it.
I think you can work at it, and like the cumulative experience, knowledge, and lessons and humility that you gain from studying whatever it is you gravitate to in your life is going to help shape your particular way of expressing the gift. You know, there's like how you receive it. So in my case, you know, pictures, voices, sensations, like there's certain people that I have a lot of chemistry with, and other people that I have like a more, you know, distant relationship with, but I can see. And then there definitely have been people where I'm like, this is not supposed to happen. And so I don't read for them.
Oh.
But over the course of my life, I feel like I really learned to do this. And then I have had teachers, many of them have been, so I'm really lucky because my parents already were open to these kinds of things, the occult, as a child, and when I was a child, and so I was always exposed. I went to channels as a kid. I went to sound baths. I was like had psychic readings, astrology readings, and it was a real thing for me. But it was not something I understood within myself until much later. Most of my, when I was younger, I got in my own way, and I share this a lot with people that I read for who have really strong intuition. And sometimes they can relate that what happens is you when you get intuitive downloads or messages, sometimes the first thing you want to do is fight with it because it's not what you wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. It's not it's not instant gratification. It may be like the worst thing you could hear, but it's a message. And so learning how to distinguish what that is for yourself, who it's for, that's where the work comes in. It's like, lots of meditation and lots of healing.
Trust.
Healing your own wounds so that you get out of the way instead of block yourself, and then subsequently, a lot of my readings, a lot of what happens is I see how people are blocking themselves and help them to see it and then give them all the tools that I can offer so that they can unblock themselves and just proceed with their life,
Which is what everyone is trying to do right now, is unblock.
Yes. Always.
You reminded me, I have, in my family, oddly enough, anything kind of psychic comes from my father's side. And his family was very, there's a lot of stories to his family, but the biggest thing is whenever someone dies, the clocks stop.
Ooh.
When my grandfather died, he literally fell and knocked the clock and it all smashed but the face.
Your grandfather himself, the person who died, knocked off the clock?
He knocked the clock off the stand and everything was done but the face.
Whoa.
But it's a very, it's interesting. My grandmother was one of 13 kids, only 2 lived. It was in the Depression. And she was, I do believe it was her side, that's my dad's mom, that
whoa, sorry. Your grandmother was one of 13 and only 2 survived?
Yeah, during the Depression. And she had such an awful life. She really was the kindest lady.
And this is your father's mother?
Father's mother, yeah. And she was very attractive, but they would always tell her they wished the one before her lived instead of her because that one was much better looking. I know. And here's the best story. So in those days when they used to have a wake, they would have the wake in the house and they would strap the body to ice. And then they would all go out and either eat or have a party or whatever, however funerals go. Funerals always have a different thing. And she was too young to go out, so they would leave her with the bodies. So she would sit terrified, staring at
all the relatives' wakes?
Yes.
You know what a wake is?
Where the, maybe?
It's called a wake because it was an opportunity for the body to wake up in case they weren't dead before they were buried.
I didn't know that. Wow.
So she was put in the position to be the witness to somebody who was presumed dead. It's so
horrible, right? So then here's
amazing. Yeah.
Here's the other part of it. Her uncle died sitting up, and rigor mortis had set in, and it was August, and the ice started to melt, and as she was sitting there, the body sat up. I know. I know. I know. That had to be very surprising.
I know this sounds really strange, but I sort of want to just be her for a day and see what that was like. Wow, rigor mortis.
But there was something about her. There is people always said she reminded a little bit of me because we both had the long legs, right?
Yeah.
And she'd always say that you've got your grandmother's legs. And my grandmother was very, very attractive, though. And she moved to New York. She had, whenever dates would come to take her out, the family would meet them at the door and say, "We can't afford food. Instead of taking our daughter out, could you buy us food?" Like, that's how I know. It wasn't great.
That's heartbreaking.
But this was who she was. She moved to New York, or I can't remember how she got to New York. She was like 18. She auditions for the Ziegfeld Follies.
Whoa.
Gets it.
Whoa.
First day they put her on the moon and hoist her way up to the top. There's one dance number. They hoist her down and she tells everybody to go to hell because she didn't like it.
In the Depression. Yeah. She's like, that's how much she didn't like it.
Yes, it's
wow.
Like, no, nuts. I'm not sitting on the moon. So, but I think it's her side that has most of the psychic stuff. My mother's side only had one story where, and it was told very...
Wait, are you attributing that to her... servitude as a wake witness?
That's just who she was. I just like that scary story.
Okay.
But there's some other stuff that my dad is very psychic, and he doesn't, isn't, he's very psychic, but he just kind of gets it. Now he's sort of more open to it, but he's so, he's old and having trouble remembering. But I really think it all came from his side. He was very, very psychic for me.
You said there was something on your mother's side?
A little stories of her in her house when people would die. Sometimes there would be a knock on the door and they'd open the door and no one was there, and then they'd go back and the person had passed. Like they always thought it was death at the door. There was always a knock at the door that death is at the door.
Right.
So that was on her side, but they came from my family came from like Germany. They're a mix, German, French, everything. Oh, I have to tell you an odd story. I have to tell everyone an odd story that's not paranormal. But this is how much, because I think sometimes in this podcast, I try to bring people things that'll help them change and heal. So it's paranormal and healing.
Yeah.
So I read the other day, I have a client that's in his 80s, and he's very nice. And the more I talk to him, I'm like, this guy's a book. And he fought. He's German. He fought for the Nazis.
Whoa.
He was a prisoner of war in Poland. So the other day he comes up and he says, "You told me to ask out other women." And he goes, "I asked out this beautiful Jewish woman the other day." And he just looks at me and I go...
He's like the SS.
I said...
Did you tell her who you are?
I was going to say that. But I said, "Do you understand if I had said that to you 60 years ago?" He goes, "I would have thought you were crazy." And he's like, "I'm not prejudiced." And I'm like, "Well, I can't wait to hear when she finds out." But what a weird turn. Like, is that a good story or a bad story? I don't know.
Well, he has to deal with something.
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity for her. And I would imagine she's not a child. And any Jewish person is going to have a strong relationship to that subject.
Right. And I asked my Jewish friends, and they were like, well, it's kind of, everybody will have a different reaction. But I thought, there's somebody that outgrew, or maybe he was young and got wrapped up in this. And then, and he was saying how he has friends now that they're still prejudiced. But he was like, I don't care. She's a nice lady. I'm a nice man.
I think that's sort of brilliant. I mean, it's the present. It's two people meeting, and you can't predict. And how can anybody say what's right or wrong for either of those two people?
Right.
But the people that I have witnessed who lived through the Holocaust, and obviously it's now a dying generation, but there are a lot of interviews that have been captured, and there was that documentary recently about Dr. Ruth too, and how I believe she lost her parents, but she was sort of rescued or saved or protected at great cost. But I find that in every conversation I hear about it, they're Jewish people are interested in the beliefs of others and in the corrections that can be made and in education. And, it's still a very, very recent history. And obviously it's even more,
important right now.
Sensitive now, because a lot of Jewish people have had to keep saying it's not over. It's not like something it's not just a wrapped up past that we can forget about. You can never forget this, and how easily it happened. And, so I would envision that woman would at least be willing to have a conversation.
Yeah, and she may not find out for a while, but I just thought that's such a fascinating. 60 years ago, if you told him that, he would have. I don't know.
It's like a huge topic. Yeah. I mean, and just what it would be like to be him. I wonder what his empathy level is to the people that he hurt.
Well, you know what? Too, he was a prisoner of war, so
he became what it was he was.
Yeah, maybe
keeping captive.
Right. He says there's some horrible things. He says he's seen horrible things. I think he was. I think when you know what I probably bet, and this is so far off from the topic of psychic fraud, which I think
your psychic influences and psychic fraud. Yeah.
I feel like he saw his own people being so horrible to others that it probably, you know what I mean. It has to affect you.
Yeah.
Now it's like, So
I mean, we're all human. That's what one common denominator that nobody can deny. I mean, I guess some people did, but You
wonder,
yeah. That's so interesting. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
How do you know that it was came from your father, your psychic influences, or that in your family, your DNA, or
because I feel
DNA.
like he was always so unbelievably psychic and intuitive himself. He was very intuitive in everything that he did, and I just feel like my mother really wasn't into, and she doesn't have any interest in it, and she didn't. My mom wanted to be a housewife, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But my dad was actually so very smart, and he used to make his way out of situations, I think, with intuition. He was a very tough New York City kid, and I think he would get himself out of trouble with that. But he was always quite open to it, and I would hear him. He would predict things that would happen, and he just thought it was like a knowing. But I always thought he made some quite interesting predictions that would always come true. Mm-hmm. And his family with his mother and stuff, all that stuff was so odd. And I really do think, because if we go with the theory that everybody is psychic, which I do believe, I think being psychic has a lot to do with boundaries that were broken when we were younger. Okay? Like
you mean being a person with extraordinary psychic gifts?
Maybe, or I think there isn't the perfect situation where people have perfect boundaries, but empaths and people that are psychic, I think, are almost moving into other people's energies because they don't have that boundary to go, I start here, you start there. You know what? I stop here, you start there. And I always feel like, especially to the clients that are are struggling now with getting tired of being empathic and stuff like that, I feel like they have had their boundaries shot, and it hasn't really been a major issue. And right now with the veil getting thin, it's getting bad. People are suddenly very tired. I'm very tired. They're more tired than before. They feel people are more draining than before. I feel like a lot of people that feel spirit. I'm not a medium, but I think that ability might be coming, because especially down here in the place of where I live, what do they call that, courtyard? I constantly am hearing people come up behind me, and there's no one there. Constantly. And I think it is. I'm wondering what's going to happen when that veil becomes so thin that some people are really seeing through. Have you noticed? Well, this would be a great time. We'll take a break.
I'm a lively guest. I'm like,
Well, no, hey, you're a great guest. Let's take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to pick that up and get into psychic fraud, and we're going to get into the email that I got.
Okay, great.
Amongst other things. Who do tarot readers go for tarot readings? They go to Melissa Sonova at melissasonova.com. She gave me the best reading a couple of months ago that is still resonating and helping me out now. She is authentic and to the point. You loved her on the podcast. She is the no BS tarot reader. She also has a tarot class online right now. Check it out. Just watching the promo, you will see how much fun you are going to have while you learn. Also, check out her book, which is always right beside me when I'm doing my readings or my tarot card for me in the morning. It is called Kitchen Table Tarot, and you will love it. Melissa Sonova, that's MELISSACYNOVA. Check her out. So, April, now when you did, we're talking about the veil getting thinner. The very first time you did a reading on me, there's other things that you see that you were like, there's a lot of snake energy in here, in my apartment, which is not necessarily, like we think snakes, but snakes are actually, the symbol of snakes are very good. And somebody told me snakes are earth dragons, that you were supposed to have dragons. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, but I love that. I think that's great. Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk about the spiders later. Spiders and snakes. Is that what it takes to love me? So when you feel an energy like that, do you feel like, is that you on the other side of the veil? Is that, or does that just an image? How does that get there?
I don't think about a veil at all. I kind of sit in like my like if you imagine, I'm just going to pick one of my favorite actors, Anne Bancroft. And she and Mel Brooks must have had like a really nice screening room in their house. It's like a comfortable room. Like when I do a reading, I'm in that room and I'm watching a movie, and the movie is your life, or the pictures that I've given. So I clear everything out. I make it my furniture. I make it my light space. I do lots of maintenance and psychic hygiene in that space, and then I sit in that space and allow what's coming to me to come. And so when, for example, I picked up on the snake thing, I don't remember everything from all my readings, but because I keep coming back to this room when we do podcasts and we visit, I could feel it and see it on the floor. So
as an energy or as a snake?
It was. Well, I'm not. There's no actual snake here, right? Like I'm looking at your hardwood floor. There's no snake, but my eyes are closed. I'm in a sort of a trance, and I see the room in a different way. So maybe that's what that veil represents. Is now I see things that we don't see with the naked eye, and I felt the presence of something that was not negative for you. It wasn't like an evil thing, and it's an afterthought to analyze the snake, because I'm not analyzing it. I'm just literally like reporting, like court reporter. Okay, I see snakes, and this is what it's doing, and this is it was curious about me, and the snake energy. If I'm correct in my memory of this, it lived here, and they lived here. There were many snakes, and they were interested in anything new that came in. And you bring in lots of new energy here too, because you do readings. Sometimes you do readings here, and you do your podcast here, and so I wasn't a threat. This is a
very paranormal apartment.
Yeah, and you invite that in so many ways, right? So it also requires more maintenance.
And you may not remember this very well, but and I'll just ask this question: are the snakes mine, or they belong here?
I don't think anybody belongs to anybody. And I don't think any energy belongs to anybody. I think that it's a moment in time, and the moment in time is a long one that you live here. And snakes are a symbol of, it depends who you ask. If you ask my grandmother, she calls it a serpent, and she thinks it's the devil because she's Catholic and she's a Bible person. But one of my best friends is the snake is her totem, and she thinks of it as a symbol of renewal. And I think of the snake as a life form that continually sheds its skin. And for me, that's very positive, because I need to shed my skin. And having that symbol is clarifying for me.
Yeah, and it's they use the snakes on the, I think it's called the Cadius.
Is that the
that's on
healthcare
the
symbol?
Yeah, the healthcare symbol from Egypt.
Yeah.
I think it's a caduceus. I always call it a caduceus, and people.
Yeah, there are different names for it. Somebody actually, I was at a seance once, and a psychic actually saw that around me, and I come from a long line of healthcare practitioners, doctors, holistic doctors,
Interesting.
people interested in health.
And maybe they're just in here for now, and then they're out. I think I was born in the year of the snake.
Were you?
I think so. I think we looked at this one time, you and I. So maybe that has more to do. This 1965.
Okay.
And it is interesting that this apartment building has had some demonic stuff go through it. Not here, my place, but when we first moved in, there was something in their apartment down there. I can show you where. I know you listening to this can't see me pointing, but I literally went to the landlord and asked them, and they said, that's funny, we can't keep people in that apartment.
The one that you now live in?
No, the one that I was
below.
No, it's over that way.
Oh, okay.
And Courage would get very freaked out about the apartment, and I asked the animal communicator one time to take a look and see what he sees, and he kept seeing something very tall and dark, very tall, bigger than the door, and it was sort of just keeping that space. And what happened was a couple moved from down that end of the complex into that. And I remember seeing them at the pool, and they were very nice, and I had said to them, so I do paranormal investigation. And they were like, oh, really? And I said, yeah, so if you have any trouble, let me know. And they froze.
They're like, she knows something.
And then the guy looks at me and goes, I took care of it. And I was like, oh, good. But
wow.
I don't know that he did. So here's the thing. I shared a garage with them. And we were pulling out of that garage once. And Courage has his own little seat, so he sits up high so he can look out the window. And everybody, if you're new to listener, you know that my dog is the king of all things.
Yeah, when he's in the car, I sit in the back seat.
Yes, in fact, it was very funny because once I moved that seat down so he could get more air conditioning, and I'm on the phone with Sonia, and she just stops out of nowhere and goes, Courage wants to know why he's so low. Could you get him up a little higher, please? So I had to pull over to that. So as we are pulling out of the garage one time, I look over at him, and he is shaking like I have never seen him shake before, and his eyes are straight forward like he's in a trance, like he's almost having a seizure. So much so that I have to pull over the car and try and calm him down. So I called Sonia, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And she said, something came at him in the garage that I don't even want to look at it again. It was so awful, and it was like ash, and it was like burnt, and it came at him like a three-dimensional, like in his face, like, I know you see me. And he, to this day, hates that garage. And the people moved out, and I think the thing went with them.
Well, the guy was I think he was attached. I think the guy was attached to the thing, not the thing attached to him. Because he put up a hand when you offered to help.
Oh.
There was some interesting relationship there.
That was, but I talked to Tommy about this. When there are apartments, it's hard to cleanse a place because it squeezes right over to somewhere else and then comes back in.
Yeah, in terms of what you were saying earlier about people being, you were talking about the veil lifting and people being tired and drained and everything. What came to mind was there was recently, it was this week, there was some news story about like just global warming is shifting populations on the planet, and I think 7 million people were forced out of their region or homes last year, I think, because of the effects of global warming, in short. And there's a collective anxiety on the planet because we've sort of lowered ourselves on the totem pole of life forms that can be sustained. And it's starting to become, it's almost like Darwin or something, survival of the fittest. And maybe that has something to do with some other things that we're seeing happening by governing powers, without getting into politics. But survival is a very base level form of anxiety that, these people don't have access to peak experiences when they are trying to breathe, drink clean water, not freeze at night, those kinds of things. So
I remember when I was a little kid, the water would come out of the faucet, and I used to say to myself, someday that's not going to happen. I know, and I hope I'm wrong, but I got a little freaked out about global warming a little earlier, and I'm pretty much like, well, go with the flow. You can't escape it. Do your best, recycle or do whatever the heck you can do. But I'm very much about like, I don't know if I can worry about that, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because I agree. Like, I think the way that we help ourselves and others is by staying strong, which comes back into doing readings and how you use your psychic energy. Like, beyond what we do with the reading thing, there's a whole world of psychic concerns and interests, and when it pertains as it pertains to like every single person who has intuition, the sixth sense, we are sensory beings. How can that be employed to help make life work or make it better?
Right.
And I think that number one goal should be to be strong, and that involves being alert, being present, healing, taking care of your body, taking care of your emotions, listening to your emotions, allowing your emotions to communicate with you about your environment. Your emotions are connected to your psychic expression in some ways. I wouldn't say always, but a specific way.
And think about what you're afraid of. What is bringing you fear? Because fear is the reaction that we're getting that people don't understand. I think people are getting afraid of things and they don't know what they're afraid of, which is that high level of anxiety. The anxiety's going up. I think people are, it's other reason why our business is so strong is people want concrete answers, because it really feels like everything is up in the air right now. I actually, for a while, I got a little wrapped up and I looked on the map. I said, what is going to be the last place affected by global warming? And it was Buffalo, New York. And then I was like, oh, well, it's better to not, better to suffer than go to Buffalo.
Were you thinking about where should I move? Was that the idea?
I want a tiny house that I can throw on the back of a truck and go. I think that's what I think I want now, but I'm not sure. But in fact, I was kind of writing in my act. I was writing that people are very afraid of the tarot cards, and they're just paper. Yeah. They're like a marriage license in Hollywood. They mean nothing. They're just paper. There's nothing happening there. Uh-huh. But I thought, if you really want to be afraid, you need to read about mosquitoes. Holy cow!
Yeah, I mean, anything that can suck blood out
and put it in someone else
and reinsert it somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's like a floating hypodermic needle with wings,
an
attitude, moods,
and no conscience,
and no contraception.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I do. But it's interesting because I do feel like there's something about the veil getting super thin, and the astrology right now is making me crazy. And this is the weirdest thing. The other day, my friend called me. He got sick and threw up. No reason, not sick, no flu. Middle of the day, I thought I was going to throw up. Not sick, no flu. And Sonia called me with the same thing. And it was like a fleeting thing that happened that I was like, this has to be astrological, because the three of us are not even in the same location. This has to be an energy of something going on in the planet. But I do feel like right now, everyone just feels this indecision, or everything's up in the air. And I think people right now driving are losing their minds.
You mean in cars?
In cars.
Well, we're in Los Angeles, so, that's kind of always happening. But Los Angeles has gotten more crowded. There are just more people sitting in metal boxes for long periods of time, which can be a bad thing.
And also, I think one of the things about big cities is the energy sweeps fast and hard. So if you're in a bad mood for some reason on the freeway, get on the phone and have everybody go, I'm so angry on the fruit. Like it's a mood that sweeps. When it's a good mood, it sweeps too. But I find that in cities that it's almost like a virus. Like whatever the mood is, it catches, and I feel like it's everywhere. I'll get 5 calls from friends with the same thing. I'm so upset today. Really, you're having a bad day too? Yes, the opposite. What a great day I had. I just feel like big cities have so much energy from the people that's what happens.
I agree with that. When you're in a big city, you're crowded, you're in other people's space, and they're in your space, and we're receiving an overload of sensory data and information. And if you live in a city, you need more self-care. You need more practical habits that help you keep that clear, and you need more quiet and rest. You have to sort of work harder to get that. When I lived in New York, I lived there for a few years, and I just cried a lot when I was there. And
really?
I love New York. I love it, love it, love it. I didn't want to move back, which is another story for another day, that I live here again. But I go back often, but for the first few years, and this was long after September 11th, but there was something about that place that to me was truthful and comforting. And I think it was a psychic overload of sorrow. There's a lot of sorrow in that city. And there's sorrow in any city, obviously. We're humans. And in Los Angeles, a characteristic emotion would be loneliness. People are very lonely here. They complain, and then they post their perfect life photos on Instagram and how they're anything but lonely, and when they're really at home lonely, scrolling through the app. But that for me was very healing. Like I think that living in New York and experiencing other people's emotions gave me permission to finally express a lot of emotions I hadn't been living here. And there was a lot for me to release. And then coming back, I sort of sometimes miss that touchstone of other people's emotions. I mean, maybe this is just a psychic problem. I doubt it, because I think a lot of people, but think about how many bodies are stacked on top of each other in these apartments, and then you're on the subway, and then you're,
And from the paranormal point of view, it's surrounded by water, and you have a lot of stone buildings, and stone is one of the biggest conductors of EMF. Yeah,
and a long history, too. Yeah. It's an older city. But I don't believe in the doom and gloom idea of this. I think that people have always had to take care of themselves, and there's always been an environmental challenge, and some people are more sensitive than others, and it's our job to take care of ourselves. So if you live in a city, whether you choose it or you feel that you didn't choose it, you can't just complain or get sucked into, well, I was in traffic, so, everything sucked. Like I think that's
no longer an excuse.
Yeah. I mean, if something doesn't work for you, leave. Move, change it. Why would you settle for something that does not support you?
That's so funny that you feel the sadness in New York, because, I feel, or loneliness is a good word.
But I love it.
Yeah. I feel like, and I see this on the road, like empty buildings, or, the Midwest with the farming now. And to me, sometimes I think, I'd love to just get up and buy a house in the, out on a farm, out nowhere. And then I think, oh, that seems so sad. The
being away
factories
from all the
closing
people
down.
and all that.
Being away from that energy, not being able to get up at. This happens on the road. I can't get up at the midnight and go, I got to walk down and get a
burger
cookie or something.
A vegan burger.
Yes,
Impossible burger.
I can't. When you go and you look out and the lights are out and the whole thing is quiet.
The sidewalk rolls up,
and then it's scary.
That to me is scary. Like I'll go camping. I need a 50-50. I need nature, I need the city, but I'm definitely a product of urban life suits me very well.
Me too, yeah. I think about that, and then for everybody that listened to the Ryan Singer episode, again, you will all be moving to the city after you heard him talk. Oh, man. I know this one's coming out after, but April, I'll tell you about that after. So 2 topics that we didn't even get to. Yeah. I want to talk about money and how stupid I was with money.
Okay. Everybody wants to talk about money. So
everyone's talking about money. And I'm always talking about manifesting on this. That's what we talk about with Jessa.
Yes.
So I go and do this gig that is it's like 5 times my regular pay.
Right. And this is a comedy show you did.
This is a comedy show I did. And I get there and listen to this Listen to the poor person thinking. And I knew this when I got there. Because, Jessa would go out like, yeah, of course. Well, that's what you should be paying me. Or, you know what I mean? Like, and she would be fit right in and it would go great. So I get there and the hotel is...
This
right?
was the deluxe suite.
$480 a night, something like that.
Yeah.
And of course, they all want to carry my bags, and they all, and everybody could not be more polite. So I'm standing there looking like Paranormal Karen, which is very not $400 a night hotel room with my little dog. And I see what it costs. And I'm like, so that's on their credit card, right? Oh, yes, of course it is, Ms. Rontowski. And then I'm like, and I got to pay for valet? What's that going to be? Like, I'm thinking, and he's like, well, valet is $30. And I'm thinking, you're staying in this unbelievably plush cabin. You have your own cabin.
You had your own creek.
I had my own creek. I was in front of the golf course. I had just taken my watercolor painting class, so I had everything I needed to paint. And I'm thinking about $30 for valet.
Valet parking. You were pissed about that.
I wasn't pissed, but I was like...
kind of...
Oh, and then, so what's weird is I think they picked up I think the company that had me out there picked up the bill because it never came out of my credit card. But I literally thought, and I actually was joking with the valet, and I was like, because I also tip everybody.
Yeah.
To me, it's very
should.
important that you
Always.
tip no matter what.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think like such a poor person, don't I? And these employees were so great. They were like,
they must have loved you.
And the gig went well, but I felt... I was so aware of how I didn't feel the same as these people.
Who are these people? Let me ask you that.
Let me put it to you this way.
Are they imaginary?
No. Imaginary people?
No, who are the people that you're describing
feel
that you didn't feel?
I'm not talking about a ghost, no. It was a company, it was a party for all the people that had bought private planes.
Oh, okay.
So literally these are people that in their spare time they own private planes.
Right. It's like yacht people.
It's like yacht people.
Yeah.
And they had been hiking all day, and I was their afternoon entertainment, and it went well enough. Mm-hmm. They were happy. And
Karen always kills. She's really, 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 really good comedian. If you've never seen her, you have to see her.
Well, thank you.
Super funny.
But I felt so different, and I knew the ladies. They were staying in the cabin next to me. I had talked to some of them, but I was so aware of, and that's part of transurfing, where if you feel uncomfortable in a place like that, you're not ready to be rich.
I feel like I'm the footnote guide. Okay, Transurfing, you can link to it. It's a book that I think was originally in Russian, that was translated into English.
Or you can listen to the episodes that we've done.
There are episodes about it on Paranormal Karen. Okay, so yes, I agree that I would only take it a notch further. You are ready if you're there, but you're not allowing for something to happen. You're blocking yourself. Because if you weren't ready, you wouldn't have manifested all of this. And it is when you talk about money, it is what you want. But what's funny is, and this is actually comedically funny, is you get it all. You get the pay, you get the great gig, you couldn't be more capable. Like you could do this in your sleep, you're so good. And then you get like the deluxe treatment, and then you're back stepping out of it almost like it's a movie and you don't belong on the screen.
That is exactly what happened. In fact, I think I spent more tipping the valet to get my car so I could go get something at Subway.
GTFO.
So I could eat at Subway so I didn't have to buy anything in the hotel. Like I come back with my Subway.
Yeah.
But it was, I was
that makes my tummy ache because I the thought that you would be so careful, almost afraid of crossing this boundary that it's a survival thing for you too. It's like your system is, you have a wonderful life, and yet, one wrong move, like it could just tear down the house.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm present to, is that your sensitivity to not wanting to screw things up so much that when the abundance comes, you really, it's not even out of your comfort zone. It's outside of your skill set of like how to just be with that, how to like turn off that low level anxiety of like, I can't cross that line. So therefore I really can't be here. I can't be in the room. It's like you can watch the movie happen, but you can't actually release the anxiety enough to forget what day it is, what time it is, whatever that means for you. For some people, that's a form of intoxication, like getting drunk, losing control. It has to do with your second chakra. That's pleasure.
People,
that's
do you
play.
see why I go to April for readings now?
I mean, I'm not like the master of chakras, but I do reference chakras a lot in readings, and even with myself, all the time. It's like, am I being too much in my head? Am I not allowing myself pleasure? Like, am I trying to control things? Like, I don't, I drink, I'm not a big drinker, but I'll drink wine sometimes. And I'm aware that for me, it is a control thing. And so I give myself a gold star if I let myself relax, whatever it takes for me. Like, I have to go on retreats. I have to go away for a few days to really do that because getting drunk doesn't work for me. But it is a little bit of a control and a survival thing, I think, for you.
Wow.
But I want to just acknowledge you for manifesting such an awesome gig that's so right for you, and finding yourself in this place, because you have to start somewhere. And it went really well, didn't it?
It did go well.
And you never got a bill. I mean,
no, I didn't even have to pay for the valet. It was very nice.
Your guides are hearing you.
Yeah.
They heard your anxiety just about the valet, and you didn't have to pay for it, and you deserve that, and you deserve more than that. You've worked hard for a really long time.
So kind.
And so how can you unblock that and have more of that so that you get more practice? Because that's what would be great for you right now, is more practice. How can you pull away one of your barriers the next time?
And hold that thought, and we're
indulge
going
it?
to come right back, because I want to pick it up right there.
Okay.
Hold on. Psychic medium and buddy of mine, Terry Huberman, is with me today. Terry, you've given me so many great readings and healings, and now you've got everything together in one package. Tell me about that.
I sure do. So this package has energy healings, readings, and coaching.
Coaching, that's the best. And people, they buy the package. You give them coaching once a week?
Yeah, so we meet online once a week, and in between there's support as well.
And who would this be for?
This is really for folks who are in indecision, needing to get into their intuition because they're blocked or stuck. They need to move forward. And so we explore what the root causes of the problems are.
And helps them get out of their own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrific. And what can they expect from this?
Sure. So moving from anxiousness to confidence, accessing their freedom, joy, and security, and really being in alignment with themselves so they have that clear direction, so they know, aha, this is what I need to do next to reach my goals.
So now there's something that's free so people can talk to you and see if this is for them.
Yeah, absolutely. On my website, terryhuberman.com, there is a page where you can click, and it's the intuitive coaching package. And there is a button there that says schedule a free call. So you go ahead, schedule it. We'll get on a call, and you can learn more about this program, and we'll see if this is a good fit for you or not.
See if there's chemistry.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's an odd date.
TerryHuberman.com, TerryHuberman. I highly recommend it, folks. All right, folks. So you were talking about when you tell people to take care of their chakras. So we obviously know this is my orange chakra, right? Second one? Okay. So to pull away the barriers, is it a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? Is it a Reiki thing?
I mean, well, you're a Reiki master. I'm not. The chakras receive information. We need them to, they remain somewhat open to receive information and to help us. It's part of our intuitive system. You can visualize your chakras. I encourage that, is to do in your meditation, visualize your chakra. It's shaped like a funnel, open at the front and smaller, more closed at the back. And imagine like you vacuum out any of the contents. And every day as we walk through our lives, we receive information in our chakras. And first, second, and third chakra probably are more what you're dealing with in a client, a Reiki client who is having physical symptoms of some kind, right? Mm-hmm. And then the four upper chakras would be more ethereal.
Right.
Right.
And I have a whole show coming up on chakras, folks, so hold on there.
Yeah. So we won't go too deep down this rabbit hole. But for me, I can speak personally, I have to clear my chakras day and night. Especially as a reader, because I'm receiving so much information and I don't want to carry it. That's one of the reasons I don't remember my readings. I encourage people to record them if they can, or take notes, whatever they're comfortable with. But I don't want to hold on to that information. It doesn't belong to me. It's not suitable for me, and I also don't want fuzzy boundaries. And I need to be able to clearly experience the information that's coming in for me throughout the day, too. So there's a lot of separations being made, and one of the ways that I do that is psychic hygiene, which is clearing out my chakras. And you can do that, you can visualize them, in your mind's eye. And for most people, meditation is difficult. I ask every client if they meditate. Most people are like, I want to, I try to, but I get antsy, I totally understand there are ways around that. But ultimately, it's very beneficial to do that. And when you can get to the point that you can hold in your mind's eye, close your eyes and visualize your body, even just like the outline of a body, and imagine it's you, and then picture your chakras, and you can go online or you can look at books. It's easy to see where your chakras are. And then picture the chakras, picture a vacuum cleaning them out. And then you can blow up the vacuum holding all those contents. You don't have to analyze it. You don't need to know what's in your chakras. You just need to clean them out and then blow it up and send that energy out into the universe, and it will neutralize. It will go back to where it belongs, whether it's other people's emotions or opinions or memories of bad experiences or traffic or whatever it is that you created that then you stored in your chakras. You can send it back to the universe and then bring it back in as cosmic universal golden light, and send down like a ball of light from above your seventh chakra, which is your crown. Bring it down into your first chakra, another one down into your second, and just fill them with light. And you can do that every day. You can do it throughout the day.
You can do that
once
quickly,
a week,
a couple minutes.
If you do it at all, you're probably doing something good. It's like brushing your teeth. Like imagine brushing your teeth once a week. How's that going to go? You're going to have bad breath.
Yeah.
You're going to taste grossness.
Very bad chakra. You're going to have smelly chakras.
Yeah. So for you...
And it's interesting because I actually have been doing a lot of meditation, and also I just posted online. And if you guys go to YouTube, you can go to, I have a couple of YouTube accounts, and this one is called Tarot Card of the Day or Karen's Tarot Card of the Day. And I just put up a 5-minute meditation, breathing meditation for panic attacks and stress. And if you can't find it, email me and I'll send it to you. And it was just a breathing exercise that gets you, it's actually, to me, it's the most balancing exercise ever. And I use it when I'm in panic or whatever. Mm-hmm. And maybe we should do this other one in a meditation video and put it up that you just described, cleaning out your chakras.
Like a guided meditation.
Guided meditation.
Yeah, it has to, I believe in giving people simple tools that if it's too complicated, people just don't do it. It's like if sitting still is hard for you, then what are the odds that you're going to but I also think that it's our job to speak to people from their higher self to their higher self. I believe it's my job to hold the space for people to show up for themselves in the best possible way. And that means like you don't criticize their flaws or their poor choices. Right. You just, show them what you see, and you also give them room to step up, because that's who they are. People are always their potential as much as they are, their mistakes.
So also one more thing, we got a few minutes. We got like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We always say we're going to talk about psychic fraud.
Yeah.
And let's give it a chance.
We can crack it open.
Yeah. And the thing that's funny, we got to make sure I don't miss my gig. Oh, we'll be perfect. And we'll be able to get a vegan burger on the way. That's going to happen. I think, too, a lot of times psychic fraud is mistaken for people who want to be psychic.
What do you mean?
Like somebody that thinks they're psychic and just put a sign out and they're really not.
I think you find out pretty quickly.
And the gypsy is the one that, and somebody just told me about, and gypsy is a weird term, but the one that you go and you pay for the reading, and then they say, and she said, Anna, I'm going to need $500 to cleanse you.
Yeah.
All the work you want to do, I'll do it for you. And he didn't pay it. And I was like, good. I don't even know. I was like, I don't even know how that works or what it is, or, you know, I just wouldn't pay $500.
Well, they're vampires.
They're vampires. Okay.
They're psychic vampires. They're people who, and you don't have to be a psychic to be a psychic vampire. We've all met them in our lives. They're people who drain our energy. And there are people who one might characterize like a gypsy in a negative sense. But I don't like to slam gypsies, because there's a whole history of real gypsies in, you know, who migrated throughout Europe that were persecuted. So
well, when you go
gypsy.
to Europe now, they warn you about the gypsies.
Yeah, I mean, it still exists.
And they still are, well, yeah, and everybody's not anything, so we don't want to, but you know, there's people,
there's an origin.
There's gypsies here in LA.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
There are tribes of them. They're off the
They're
grid.
nomads. I mean, they don't stay in one place. But the type of gypsy that you're referring to,
the stereotype.
If somebody walks up to you on the street, and this has happened to me, where I'm like visiting a friend who owns a shop, and we're hanging out, and then a guy walks in and he says, "Oh, can I see your hand?"
Right.
And he tells you something, and he says, "You know, here's this shell. Hold on to it." You know, that is almost like his, you know, cell phone USB cord plugging into you. If you keep that thing, it drains your energy. So that's one of the reasons that you want to release objects and anything that drains your energy, that is a symbol of something that does not need to be in your life, or that you do not need to be thinking about, or a past relationship that you're holding on to.
You know, that's very interesting, and now you've hit on a whole other topic that I wish we had more time for, because it also goes back to Marie Kondo, what you should have in your apartment. And also, as you can see, I don't know if you can notice as much as everybody else, I am shedding stuff. I am getting rid of bags of clothes. I am getting rid of, my apartment is very empty, and I'm looking at a picture that someone else gave me that there's nothing wrong with it, but I was like, that's the next thing that needs to go. I throw out one thing a day, and I'm down to pictures, and I'm like, I did not choose these pictures, so they need to go, because as we say, we're always communicating with everything in our space, so make sure you're communicating. So if someone gives you something, if someone gives you their business card and you don't like them or something, get rid of it.
I mean, we're talking about psychic frauds, and I'm trying to stay on point, but that was like one.
Really stay on.
No. I love what you're saying, and I think it's connected. But the reason that I brought up that person that gives you the thing is like the psychic on the street. That's not to say that a psychic can't be anybody on the street, you know, legitimately. But usually, if it's someone that you're going to either give money to or you want to talk to, you know, there has to be a way for you to vet them. You know, the first thing is your own intuition, you know, and are you tuned into your own, you know, what serves you and what doesn't serve you. But then there's also like the investment of like, not necessarily marketing, because there's plenty of people on Instagram that are also frauds and whatever. But you know, there's systems of vetting.
The bait
and the guy
switch,
that hands you something is he's draining you of your energy. He needs energy. Why is he on the street wandering into stores looking for? But then again, you know, when I was in my early 20s, I remember there used to be this place, I think it was called Cafe, I forget the cafe, it was this place on Melrose. And I used to go there a lot with my friends, and there was this guy who wandered in with tarot cards, and he was like a street psychic, and he'd say 10 minute reading for $10, and he sat down and he was really, really good. And I stayed in touch with him for years. He was so good. He ended up moving to like, I don't know, Kansas or something, and I would call him periodically, and he would pull cards for me. So
you know what,
it
though?
felt good, though. I trusted him.
That's kind of how I started. And when Sonia and I are on the road, a couple of times we have pulled out the cards in like an Applebee's or something.
Yeah.
And waitress, manager comes over, we're going to comp your meal because, and it's a very interesting, and I think that's a very ballsy, I think that's
an old-fashioned way that tarot card readers would have to sort of.
My escape route is always, and believe me, I have this planned, how I fake my death. and but I can't figure out the car. How you get a car that can't be identified? And just go across the country and sit down in Starbucks and open up those cards.
Yeah.
Because people will come, they will get good readings, short or long, and they will tip you. And it is a real living, and I could see doing that. I think that would be I would do that as a Periscope series or something. But I really think somebody not knowing you, all they see is the card, it doesn't take long till they come over and ask.
Yeah, I mean, there are different, some people are more or less knowledgeable about the tarot, but in terms of psychic fraud, it's a really powerful tool. You can mess with someone's emotions, you can mess with somebody's fate, but people have to, the first tool to help yourself against frauds is healthy boundaries. You want to be kind of 50-50. You want to have skepticism and openness. And by skepticism, I mean your own internal system is healthy, and you practice hygiene, and if something feels good, you go there, and if something doesn't feel good, you don't. And not every psychic is for everyone, but all kinds of psychic frauds out there. I get a lot of
calls, and people will say, you told me this and I thought you were crazy. And I actually have an appreciation for that they didn't buy every piece of information. Some of them they discerned and meant, and even though they'll say, and I'm calling you back because that happened and my mind is blown, which is good, but I like the fact that they took a minute to discern, wait a minute, I'm not sure about that. Like they didn't just buy it and take it all in.
Yeah, I mean, well, we were talking about this before the podcast started, how, you're seeing potential, and if a person doesn't take the subsequent actions to realize their potentials, then it's just words. It doesn't actually mean anything. So you don't have any control over that beyond the moment of the reading. But, people need to be skeptical, because if they're not, then it gives the reader too much power and influence. And if you're a reader who has healthy boundaries, you don't want that. You don't actually want to mix with another person's karma.
Right.
There's responsibility there. So, but there isn't really like when you're in traffic, there's that radar that can detect a police radar. Like there isn't really a radar for fraud psychic people, but your best radar is actually just using your own intuition.
And that is a weird, it is a weird line, because there are some people that are really psychic and con artists at the same time.
Yeah, I think, I'm trying not to talk about politics, but I think that there are people who have the ability to hypnotize others for their own purpose or agenda. But that, sometimes the best protection is also really basic stuff like having a good education, learning to practice rigorous thinking, having a spiritual life, practicing having an open mind, but also, never allowing another person to have complete power over you. And those vulnerabilities are addressed early in life, hopefully.
And understanding you have the ability to change your future.
And changing your mind.
And how you perceive it. April Eckfeld at April Readings at Gmail, April Readings at Instagram. I know. Did I get it right?
You just repeated a lot of words. It's it's Instagram at April Readings, and that'll all my information is there. You don't have to be on Instagram. You don't have to have an Instagram account to see it. It's public. I'm also Karen told me to start a Yelp page, so I have 2 reviews there, but I have lots and lots of testimony also.
Yes, and she gets my highest recommendation.
Thank you
I
so
much. Around with the best people.
I love coming here.
Yay! All right, look up April, ladies and gentlemen. Leave me a 5-star review or whatever, wherever you can, so that my podcast moves up in the thing. Hopefully, coming to a city near you. Miami, I know in next year in May, and that's our only Paranormal Karen event with psychic stand-up, which is going to be me doing stand-up and reading tarot cards.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Get to Miami, headlining Brad Garrett's Comedy Club in February. Folks, thank you for listening. Please email me at paranormalkaren@gmail.com. Tell me if there's guests you love, if there's more you want to hear. And thanks to Mike Flynn at Uno Rising Media. He's fantastic. Been putting up with a lot of my BS. And have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Karen.